have we had any official reaction from the Lebanese government or indeed from Hezbollah today?
Laura, good evening. We actually do not have any official confirmation from anyone. The only people to release any sort of statements were the PLFP themselves, who are pointing the finger at Israel for that strike. They say that killed 5 of their militants and injured 10 others. Now, we do also know the head of the political bureau in Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, did call the Secretary General of the PLFP's General Command to offer his condolences. And earlier today, the PLFP GC releasing a statement saying, quote, "We affirm that our war, which is being waged by the axis of resistance, will accumulate in a very clear victory on the entire Palestinian national territory by raising the flag of liberation over Jerusalem and beyond." So you can really get a sense and an idea of what the PLFP is trying to relay here in their messaging. We also do know that Israel is currently carrying out a 2-week-long military drill. In this, we've seen military equipment ourselves being transported to places like the northern border here throughout the last couple of days. The Israeli military has said that they're preparing for anything on all fronts. A reminder that in April, we did see rockets coming from southern Lebanon into Israel, about 30 of them, and Israel did strike Lebanon then. Now, it's unusual for Israel to comment on any sort of military activity it has in Syria, as we know. So it's interesting that they were quick to deny this strike overnight in Lebanon. This is a group that operates both in Syria and Lebanon. Some of their bases are right on the border there in the eastern part of the country. So we're going to have to wait and see for a little bit more information as to who exactly was behind the attack overnight.
Absolutely. For now, thank you very much. Hamza Salhoud there. Well, joining me now, Yaakov Lapin is a military and strategic affairs analyst at the Jewish News Syndicate. Thank you very much for being with us, Yaakov. Some very different versions then of what happened early this morning from the Palestinian group and from the Lebanese government. What is your initial reaction? What do you think went on?
Of course, it's impossible to say with any certainty, but it looks like this was an accident. This is a small terrorist organization. First of all, we should put this organization in its correct proportion. It's small, it's marginal, it's already alienated amongst many Palestinians living abroad in Lebanon and in Syria because it had fought with the Assad regime during the Syrian civil war. Its role is really minimal, both in Lebanon and in the West Bank and these places. It's an offshoot of the PFLP. And the images that are coming out of that explosion would appear to suggest that they have possibly mishandled some explosives. The organization may be seeking to improve its budgetary situation vis-a-vis Iran, and that's why maybe it's making these threats. You know, it could be seeking more money from Iran. It has received assistance from Hezbollah and Iran in the past. But ultimately, we're talking about a marginal and small organization which has taken part in hostilities in the past, but it's way past its peak in terms of its capabilities from the days of the 70s and the 80s.
Well, where does this leave Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah? Because as we heard in that report, he said he would retaliate if Israel was to strike Lebanese territory. He's been conspicuously quiet on the incident.
Right. Well, he doesn't have anything to retaliate for, it would seem, because the very unusual step of an Israeli denial essentially creates the ability for him to say, well, you know, the Israelis not only not commenting, they are actively saying that this wasn't them, and that should probably be enough for him to conclude that he doesn't really need to do anything. I don't think that Hassan Nasrallah is interested in making strategic calculations about war and peace based on what happens to this very small PFLP GC organization. I think he's got far wider calculations than that.
Right, and all of this sheds light, doesn't it, Yaakov, on the role of Palestinian groups operating inside Lebanon. I mean, how much jurisdiction does the Lebanese government, the Lebanese army, have over these groups?
None. They have no jurisdiction, just like they have no jurisdiction over Hezbollah. Southern Lebanon is run entirely by Hezbollah. The idea of a Lebanese state existing in southern Lebanon is essentially a myth. But Hezbollah itself, its ability to control, say, Hamas, which has been building its own capabilities in southern Lebanon, is a question mark. It's an interesting intelligence question. Certainly, Hezbollah is the entity that controls southern Lebanon militarily, politically, economically. So that is the dominant both government and military entity there. And these small, Palestinian groups, PFLP, GC, are completely sort of, seen in a positive light by Hezbollah, but not much more than that. I think the real focus should be on Hamas's goal of establishing a new front against Israel from southern Lebanon. That's certainly something to watch. Hamas is an organization with real capabilities, real funding, real rocket production capabilities. I think that's the one to watch in Lebanon rather than this small organization.
Well, what is the relationship between Hamas and the PFLP?
It's Hamas is an organization, which produces occasional positive rhetorical statements for PFLP. Again, I have to stress, we're talking about PFLP GC, not PFLP. So this is an offshoot of the PFLP. The PFLP GC, I think, is so small that Hamas just says, sure, we support your cause rhetorically. There's not much more to it than that. Again, this all comes down to the fact that the PFLP GC is small, is quite unpopular for fighting with the Assad regime during the Syrian civil war. If you recall, Hamas was actually suffered a break in relations with Iran over that war because it backed the Sunni Islamists who were fighting Assad and the Shiite axis.
Jakob, we'll have to leave it there, I'm afraid. We're out of time. Jakob Lapin, sorry to cut you off. Thank you very much.